Those are things you just learn on the go. Like, you know, I was like, oh yeah, the idea of less is more. Why I feel maybe I've had some success on set, because when I'm on set, I try to make everybody's day a bit better. I tell jokes. Sometimes they don't land well. Arnold Schwarzenegger is somebody that I work with where I'm like, please God, like me. This one story, I don't know if I can talk about this, but I kind of felt like they were my friends, and they just threw me under a bus. No one talked to me after. I started like looking inward, working harder on myself, and that year I booked 11 films. You don't have to be the world's greatest actor. You have to, if you have an audience that's willing to watch you, you've already won the battle. And how can I get more control on my side so that I'm bringing something to the table that I can now negotiate better? I definitely know I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to the likes, very narcissistic, like the dopamine rush of just checking my phone again. So don't try to plan so much, because it's literally our dumb human brains. We can't see opportunities that are not there. We don't know until we've experienced it. So I kind of just perceive like we're floating on a rock in the middle of nothingness. Who cares? Try, take chances. If I can make somebody laugh or forget about a bad day, that's why I do what I do.
Thank you for tuning into my podcast, Creative Full Time. Before we start the interview, if you could hit the subscribe button, I would appreciate it so much. It helps us out when we want sponsors or getting bigger guests on the show, and it costs you not a damn thing. Welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Cheers.
Hey, cheers. First podcast with merch. Whoop, whoop. Anyway, I do want to start with, how did you want to be an actor? Like, when did you fall in love with acting?
Wow. Let's go back to high school. It was funny because when I was in grade school, I wanted to audition for The Wizard of Oz in grade 6, and I prepared a song routine with my mom. I was crushing the Lollipop Guild song, and when I went for the audition and they called my name, I got so nervous and I just walked home, and my mom was like, how did that go? And I was like, they didn't want me, but actually I knew that I was just too nervous.
Oh my God.
So I always had like a passion that I wanted to entertain, but I just didn't think I was good enough, and I was scared. And the opportunity in grade 10 was to take drama class. And in my drama classes, we would play games and I would act around and make people laugh, and I really liked that. And my drama teacher was like, you're good at this. And I was like, oh, like, he's like, do you want to be in our musical, like our play? And I was like, oh no, like I can't audition. He's like, you don't have to audition, I'll just put you in. And I was like, huh, interesting. So after,
and the dream of offers was born.
So after my grade 10 play, so big thanks, his name is Brian Raisbeck. He was my drama teacher for 10, 11, and 12. He was the catalyst that got me to keep doing it, and now I'm a full-time actor, so it all worked out.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so did you go to post-secondary school, or did you just jump into acting after high school?
Yeah, so I mean, as any kid growing up, you don't really think you can do this full-time. You know, you see everybody else, how hard it might be. And I have a degree in human kinesiology. I wanted to be a gym teacher.
Nice.
And when that got done, I also have a background in music. So I was on Canadian Idol when I was 18, and I finished in the top 50, which isn't like crazy or anything like that. But
I mean, it's pretty crazy.
I had a couple episodes.
There's more than 50 people in Canada.
Yeah. So I made it that far, and I was like, okay, I'll do music. And I was doing music for a long time. And then the big catalyst was I got reached out to by an agent when I was doing my music stuff, and she was like, oh, maybe I can get you into the acting side. And I was like, yeah, I used to do musicals when I was in high school and stuff, so I feel like maybe I would be a good fit. And the first thing I auditioned for was The Bachelorette in Canada. So I got onto The Bachelorette, non-acting related, I was just myself. And I got that taste of like being on camera, and I think that was what kind of flipped in my head, was like, okay, if I can get on a show this big, why can't I get onto something else? So packed up all my bags, had nothing. I had no money saved up, I had no plan, and it's kind of crazy. It's like so serendipitous. Like I put out a message saying like, does anybody take me in Toronto? I had a friend who was going to school here in Toronto, and he didn't want to give up his place during the summer. So he's like, you can have my place, just pay me half of what it would normally cost. And I'm like, really? That's like...
Deal.
Yeah, absolute steal. And so I stayed there for 4 months and started to learn where everything was in Toronto. My like first week being here, I was like, man, I need a job. So like I went out job hunting, and serendipitous, I'm walking the streets with my resumes. I bump into one of my brother's ex-girlfriends. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. She's like, I work in this restaurant right here. I could bring you in if you want. I got a job at Joey's over here at the Eaton Center, where I met my current roommate, who I've been living with for over 9 years now.
Nuts.
And it all you kind of worked out.
The stars aligned for you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Damn.
And it's when you, I think you really push yourself, you give yourself no other options, like just follow that path, and you kind of just take the opportunities that are presented to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no room for second guessing or maybe should I not, or just like, okay, yeah, that's where I'll work.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And are you still with the same agent? Was that the same
I thought you were about to say,
agency?
yes, same roommate.
Yeah, same roommate. Yeah.
And I'm still with the same agent. It's been 10 years. So I moved here when I was 25. I'm 35 now, even though I still look 25.
Ayo.
And it's been really good. I've been very thankful.
Nice. That's awesome. And you have a movie coming out this Sunday.
I do.
Let's talk about the movie coming out on Sunday.
It's my 13th Christmas movie.
Amazing.
It's my 5th lead role. It's called A Bluegrass Christmas, where I play Grant Breckenridge, the son of a wealthy tycoon who doesn't want to fund the horse sanctuary anymore. And it takes me and my no-can-do big city attitude to save the day. And it's honestly, from being in over 13 Christmas movies, they are very formulaic sometimes, and sometimes they kind of like becomes a little cheesy. They lean into the cheese side. But this one, A Bluegrass Christmas, has actually had like moments. I watched it for the first time alone, and I was crying. I called my co-star. I was like, I didn't know you were that good in that scene that I'm not in. and yeah, it's really good. It's really heartfelt. The acting in it is really good, and there's some really beautiful moments in it.
That's amazing. Is this one of the first projects where you've got to combine your music and your acting?
Oh, no.
Do you do that a lot?
Oh yeah. So that's there are an endless supply of white guys. And handsome ones. There's so many of them. They're always needed for certain things. And if I ever, I'm working with other actors, and they'll be like, how did you, get there? And I think having my music background, I play guitar, piano, and I sing.
Nice.
My first big Christmas movie, where I starred alongside Beverly Mitchell, who's from Seventh Heaven, played Lucy. It was my first where I was like supporting lead. And I remember walking in the room and seeing, I was like, why does she look so familiar? And I was, oh my God, I'm working with her. Like, and it was because at that time I was non-union, and the breakdown was like, need somebody who can play guitar, need somebody who can play piano, and can sing. So you're already knocking down a lot of pillars that are fitting for me, and then add handsome, add charming, add can dance. Like, so I was like, okay, just stop describing me.
I love it.
And so I got into what's called Rock and Roll Christmas, and I would say maybe my next 5 or 6 roles, where they were a bit bigger, were all guy playing music. And I would I would ask my agent, I'm like, am I any good at acting? Am I just getting roles because I also sing? And then there was kind of like, that's what gets you the exposure. When I look back on those first films and see my acting, I was like, wow, like at the time I think I'm really good. And a story that I always tell, Max McGuire was the first director I worked with. He's a fabulous director out of Ottawa, shoots a lot of stuff up there. My first scene in a Hallmark Christmas movie is a scene where the mom and the daughter are bickering about, not loving each other. And my character's mom is dead. And so it's an emotional scene that I get up and I say, like, I can't believe you guys are fighting. Like, I don't even have my mom, and I would do anything to have her back. And I'm like, I'm out of here, and I leave. But I did it with way more emotion. I was bawling. I'm like, I lost my mom, and you guys. And I think I crush it. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I got so many tears. I was so good at what I just did.
Yeah.
And I hear, they're like, hey, David, Max wants to talk to you. And I'm like, he's probably going to be like, you freaking nailed that. And I go over to talk to him, and he's like, hey, this is a Hallmark Christmas movie. Pull it back by like 10. And I was like, oh, you didn't need me like all crying and stuff? He's like, no, it's not that serious. So it's funny is
You were just going for the Oscar.
exactly. I thought, I know, and then those are things you just learn on the go. Like, you know, I was like, oh yeah, the idea of less is more, especially when you're working in these Christmas movies. Sometimes, not that I don't take them too seriously, but sometimes I'll work with actors who are in the craft of the method or the Stanislavski and all that stuff. And I think it's great to understand the concepts. But sometimes I always just say, this is a Christmas movie. You're playing girl next door. You're not a, you know, a 1917, you know, character where you need to be thinking about all these things. Just they casted you to be yourself, be an element of yourself in that character, and just don't even think. Just what if you are this girl hanging out with this small town boy, and how would you feel, right? So that's where I'm at. Where sometimes they'll be like, oh, that's not my process, and I'm like, all right, whatever your process is. But I think that's really unique too, is being on set with different people and how they work and how you can make the best art.
Yeah, for sure. And you've worked with some pretty big names well. What's like the best piece of advice that you've gotten from somebody that you had admired working with?
Advice? They don't give you any advice.
No, they gatekeeping?
Not that they don't gatekeep. It's unique. It's when you're working with somebody really, really big, you so desperately want to be like friends with them on set, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger or somebody that I work with, where I'm like, please God, like me. Like, let's lift some shit together. I'll lift whatever you want. And you know, it's I mean, they have their own friend circles. Like, they have enough friends. As you do this a lot more, you go, oh, this is work. Like, this isn't their, you know, they show up, they do their thing, and they have their friends, they have their family. And don't get me wrong, you can build really, really amazing connections on set. But sometimes, I mean, especially the big stars, it's sometimes really hard. And there's nothing more humbling when I'll be like, oh, let's exchange Instagrams, and they don't follow you back. And you're like, you pieces of shit. And then you'll see them with the other co-stars who are a bit more famous, who, you know, and they're chummy with them. I'm like, oh, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. But that's okay. As I move through it, I try not to, you know, try not to think of it as that. Like, sometimes you do have the genuine friendships, and I'm thankful for all those ones that have come in.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the coolest actor I worked with, story-wise, because a lot of the big stars, they have their big trailer, so when a scene's done, they don't have a lot of stand-around chit-chat time. They'll just be like, okay, I'll be in my trailer, and you're like, all right. But Gabori Sidibbi, who's Precious, I did a Christmas movie with her, and she would sit in between takes with us and tell us stories about her life. And she told us this one story. I don't know if I can talk about this, but she told this one story because she was a bit bigger in high school and she had fairly larger boobs. She would get bullied all the time. And she said that there was this one, like, either Russian or like Ukrainian kid in her class. And he stood up for her one time, and she's like, I felt like so honored, but then he was like, she got the best titties in class. Do not bother her. And she's like, oh,
she's like, a blessing among us.
Like, oh, you know, thanks for standing up for me. So I remember she told that story, and it was really funny.
That's so funny.
She's very funny off camera. So I'm very happy for all the success that she's had.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. We were talking before about just the in-betweens of working. Like, your movie's coming out this Sunday and everybody's messaging you and being like, this is awesome, like, you're killing it. And now what your thought process was different. I want you to share that, because that was good to hear. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that it takes maybe a year for your movie to come out. So all your hard work of being on set every day, and as well as getting paid, you get paid on that end, not when the movie comes out, is that when all the clips are coming out, that's when people are seeing the finished product and they think you're busy. It's in real time.
Yeah, like you're working so much, and you'll get all the comments like, you're killing it. But that at this moment, there's nothing going on. The only thing killing it is me working social media to make you think that I'm killing it. And I think that's as much as I hate the guy, Donald Trump has a quote where he says, perception is greater than reality. So if I can get you to perceive that I'm this amazing thing, take that. That is my goal, is just to make you think I'm the greatest thing. I don't actually have to be. So I think social media is really unique for that. Is, you know, I think take advantage of it, is create this image that's larger than yourself. You don't have to be that perfect guy. I have so many flaws. I cry in the shower a lot. I dye my hair. I'm at an age where I have to use dyeing shampoos in my hair and stuff like that. So I think it's like a unique thing we're in, and everybody does it, and you kind of have to play the game. You know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you find it taxing doing all the social media stuff, or do you enjoy it?
You know, there is a world where if I didn't have any of it, I'd be like, wow, I would be way less stressed, because I definitely know I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to the likes, very narcissistic, like the dopamine rush of just checking my phone again, seeing the compliments
100%,
come in, and I'm like, wow, I enjoy this a lot, but I'm also like, so I wish I just could put my phone down for a whole day and not have to look at it. But but I do, why I love what I do is I know the world's so stressful, and people watch movies to kind of take them away from whatever is ailing them. So if I can make somebody laugh or forget about a bad day, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's different too for creators who, I was gonna say have a personality, which is so bad, but like do other things, make people laugh. You're a musician as well. Like have other outlets, creative outlets that are outside of just being on set and working in that way. Because there's some actors that just want to do that and they don't want to do social media stuff at all. But yeah, I think it's different with creators that like to entertain, like whether it's like escapism or humor or musician or whatever.
And I think what I'm working on right now is how can I get more control on my side so that I'm bringing something to the table that I can now negotiate better. So I was like, hey, if I can get my TikTok following up and I have an audience already, I can bring that to the table. And so lately I've just been working on my TikTok, and I've had some success recently that I'm like, wow, like even though a lot of people are like, I don't like doing that stuff. I'm like, it's okay not to like doing that stuff. But you want to have all the avenues that can help you in any capacity. I think one of the greatest stories is Addison Rae, who's a TikTok star. She did a remake of She's All That, did the remake of He's All That on Netflix, and it was the #1 most watched thing for a little while. I watched the film. The acting isn't there, but what I think is kind of a crazy thing is you don't have to be the world's greatest actor. You have to, if you have an audience that's willing to watch you, you've already won the battle. And I always say, I'm like, name me one person who will look at you and say, The Rock is my favorite actor. No one, but he's the highest grossing. He's so well liked. That's his job, is he's really well liked. Everybody really respects him, and that's his avenue to the top. And that's what I say is you can take all the acting classes you want and be as amazing as you can be, but if people don't like you or want to see you on TV, your career is not going to go that far.
Yeah, that's true. There is two very separate things about acting, and it's like the actual craft and then the actual marketing, business side, the networking, all of that. And you need both and it's, I mean, for some people sucks because I mean, I don't like networking, but whatever. But they're both really important there. And as much as you work on like acting classes and your craft, you also have to be working on this crap too. So
we actually said, if I can remember where we met at Toronto Web Fest, your question to me, I think I might have said the business side is equally as important. I think that's maybe what
And you were saying too that networking there paid off for you. Share how that paid off for you, because that was so cool.
So I think say yes to opportunities even when they're non-paid or whatever it might be. And I ended up getting a voiceover agent by volunteering to be a judge on WebFest. So you never know.
Awesome.
Honestly, I would have never in a million years have guessed that would have happened. But I did take on, I said, okay, if a lot of smaller creators are going to be at Toronto WebFest, why not have them know who I am? And sometimes I've had I remember when I was serving at the restaurant Joey's, a guy came in and I was like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a director. And I was like, oh, I'm an actor. I'm like, we should collab sometime. He's like, all right, give me your number. And I put into his phone, I was like, if you need a basic white guy, and I put basic white guy, hit me up. And no word of a lie, 3 years passed. And I got a text message that say, is this a basic white guy? And I was like, no freaking way. And it actually, his name's Ricky, and he actually works with, I always forget his name. His name's Just Rain. He has the, I think it's called Late Bloomers is his show on Crave.
Yeah.
So Just Rain is the actor in that, and Ricky was his friend and director who shot his shorts. And
nice.
I was in one of his shorts.
No
with Just
way.
Rain. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because of that interaction.
That is so cool. I love how you put it, because that's how people save names in phones now. It'll be, at least for me, where like my people at work, I'll be like first name and then wherever we met is your last name. And so I love that. Anytime you need a basic white guy, text this number. It says basic white guy.
Yeah, and you never, 3 years later, like you never know what it could be.
That's nuts. That's awesome. And I love that at TO Web Fest, like you announced the award and you're just like, I'm going to put on a voice. I'm going to read this.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like,
it was for podcasts.
Podcasts. Okay. I was going to say it had something to do with,
it was a heartfelt message that was just like, in the world of podcasts. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I could maybe spin this some way. And you see everybody
100%.
else going up and having some funny jokes. And I'm like, I want people to laugh. And I think that's just comes back down to who I am as like an entertainer and why I feel maybe I've had some success on set. Because when I'm on set, I try to make everybody's day a bit better. I tell jokes. Sometimes they don't land well. But it's great. Any way for me to be creative and entertain is an opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And for your shows that you did, reality TV shows, was that strategic to be like, oh, this will get me seen and I can, grow a following from this or whatever? Or was it just, hey, it's here, so I'll do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not necessarily strategic because there's like, you have no idea you're going to get onto these things. They're really hard to get on. That when that opportunity came on, I kind of jumped at it. Did I think I was going to fall in love? No, but I was there for a fun time. I met some really amazing people. Even to this day, there's this one guy, Kevin Dexter, who works in TV and film, and he's actually in China now doing acting and stuff, and seeing how his career has grown. And it's been over 10 years, and we still communicate with each other. So yeah, it's cool. I'm very thankful for all those opportunities that have come from it. And it was funny when they asked me to come back on to Bachelor in Paradise. That was 5 years later, where I was like, I'm done with dating shows. And they called me, and I was thinking, oh, they have a production company. Maybe they want me to host a show or be something else on a show. And they're like, nope, we want you to come back as a contestant. And I originally said no. I was like, no, like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I'm really good with my acting right now. I don't want to jeopardize it. And I think they offered me a bit more money, and I was like, you know what, I could do it. I could go on vacation. This was during COVID too, and we had to sequester for 14 straight days in a hotel room where you couldn't leave for 14 straight days. Damn. Do you know how crazy it was? Like, I felt my exercise, but I would run from the window to the door back and forth. And I was like, this is what a hamster is.
This is what prison feels like. It
was nice because they allowed us to keep our phones, so I could call. What I would do is every day I would call an old friend that I hadn't talked to in a while and just kind of shoot the shit with them. But then it was, it's funny as, you go on to a show like that, and in your head, you have planned, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to be perceived, and yada, 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 yada. And then you get there, and for me, I was the villain, and I'm like, okay, I would have never in a million years, done this. And then, it sent me, when the show was done, I was like, holy crap, this is going to derail my career. I was in I fell into such a sad hole. And I was like, nobody's going to want to work with me. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is what I love to do, is being an actor. I was so scared. And, at the time, the producers, I felt like because I worked with them on the last one and this one, you know, they come and talk to you. I kind of felt like they were my friends, and they just threw me under a bus. No one talked to me after, even for the tell-all. They wouldn't even look me in the eye, and I was just like, I lost a lot of respect for them. So if you're watching this, still to this day, give me a phone call. I'll talk to you guys. But
do you think they do that on purpose, is make you feel like that you guys are close friends and that they wouldn't throw you on the bus?
It's for a result, like
sorry, we need to sell stuff.
Yeah, they cared. So I think they cared so much about the ratings or what they were trying to do, and my intention is never to hurt anybody. But when they're trying to make me seem like some kind of villain, I was like, okay. But here's how the story all unfolded: was I hit that huge low. I started like looking inward, working harder on myself, and that year I booked 11 films.
Amazing.
Following it, where it was the busiest I ever was. And then this is how careers go: is that year 11 films, I'm crushing it. I'm like, wow, everything's going like this. Writer's strike for 5 months, and you just don't work. And that year I had two films in the next corresponding year, and I was like, what is going, this industry is all over. You never know what's
next. Do you
next.
find in those highs you're like, yeah, this is how it's gonna be
forever? Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I've made it, this is it.
There's an actress named Tori Higginson who was on Stargate, who I did a thriller Netflix film with, and she's really, really lovely. She's been in the industry for a really long time, and I had that talk with her because I was like, this is my I'm the lead in this thing. And she's like, yeah, you know, enjoy it while it comes, because it's a roller coaster. You know, she's like, after Stargate, things go like this and they go like this, and you just got to be along for the ride. And as my career has now progressed, I'm like, wow, she's spot on about it. You know? But I just, you know, I always say, if you give up, you'll never know. So I will always keep going till I'm dead. If I have to find other things to keep me afloat, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you ever thought about quitting?
Oh, a million times.
Yeah?
There's a million times where it's like, what would it be like to have a paycheck every week?
Yeah.
Steady.
Right.
But I kind of I think it's just in my nature. I like the gambling. I like the never knowing what's next. It also opens you up to, like, if I was just in the office at the water cooler with the same people till I died, I don't know. I like meeting new people and having new connections, and you never know where they can take you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had that where I haven't wanted to quit, but wished that a 9-to-5 would make me happy.
Yeah.
as much as acting does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your agent. Well, do you want to talk about your agent, where you're at with them, or are you rather not?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been with my agent for 10 years. And I think I think an agent-actor relationship is always really important to have good communication between each other, because you're a team. You're like, your whole brand is you as a team, and it's been really amazing because I just signed with a voiceover agent, and it's now taking me here. So now I'm like, ooh, it'd be cool to see, like, if I get an agent in America, or if I get an agent in maybe Australia or something. So I'm really, looking to see what the next move is. You kind of just, there is no roadmap. You kind of just figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
So anybody who's getting into this, don't try to plan so much, because it's literally our dumb human brains. We can't see opportunities that are not there. We don't know until we've experienced it. So I always just say, try, figure out what doesn't work, and then work your way up.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of have to, because you're right. There is no one way. That's why we have this podcast.
Exactly.
So there's no one way to be
creative full-time
an actor
and struggling. No. But that's, it's a trope, because people will be like, oh, he's struggling or my parents will be like, he's an actor, and people are like, ooh, like no, I'm okay, like I'm doing all right. Like,
well, you don't have another job other than acting. Mm-hmm. So cheers to you.
Well, thank you. But there are other, I'm a big, huge manifester of, like, manifest wealth or opportunities, being magnetic to opportunities that come to you. I fostered a dog for about 2 weeks, and I was lucky enough, from posting about it, one of my friends adopted it.
Aww.
And I had some, like, videos with me and the dog, and I had a friend who knew a PR company that was looking for somebody who had a dog, and he's like, yo, you would be perfect, bring your dog. And I'm like, it's not my dog anymore, my friend adopted it. they're looking for somebody to do this, just a TikTok video about it's called Dogtopia. Shout out to Dogtopia.
Shout out.
And they hired me to do some content and paid me to shoot some TikToks with this dog.
Oh, nice.
And I generated income that I never would have. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, you're gonna pay me to do I do TikToks for free at home. And yeah, and then now even, I mean, sometimes I'm in a position next to where I live. The owners of Mr. Greek is a place that I go to quite often, and they're really nice people. And they're like, yeah, it's been a little bit slow, and they're like, oh, your TikToks are doing really well. And I was like, you know what, I'll do it pro bono, and I'll just do it for free, and then, you know, I never know what, you know, somebody might reach out, and so sometimes I'll take on opportunities, and you don't know what it might lead to.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Have you ever gotten an offer? Have you hit offer status yet? Or
Sadly,
just
no.
a lot of
10 years.
should have been offers?
10 years, 10 years. You know, sometimes even though they want to give me an offer of people I've worked with before, they will be like, hey, we just want you to read for this role, but we think you're kind of a lock. I just was in the Lifetime Christmas movie, Christmas in the Spotlight, which is loosely based on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And I play the douchey ex-boyfriend of Taylor Swift. And it was funny, the company that I've worked with maybe 6 times.
You're a musician in that one too?
No, I'm a reality TV star,
okay.
my other side of me. And the company's called Brainpower, we've shot 6 movies for. And she's like, when this role came up, we thought about you immediately. I was like, you thought of me as the douchey reality TV guy. And they had a laugh, and I was so thankful that I got to do it, because it's, you know, the Taylor Swift fandom, and the movie turned out so well. It was so well shot. Cinematography was great. And but when she brought me in, she was like, hey, we just wanted to apologize that we had to make you read for this. We definitely would have given it. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to book the job, I have no problem reading. And sometimes I just auditioned for a role where it's a widowed dad who has 3 daughters, and the eldest daughter is 18. And I know I'm 35. But I don't really look. Laughing. Right, yeah. I know I'm 35. Oh yeah, even if 35, I'd have to be, what? I'd be 15 years old to have my daughter.
That's
at this age. And I told my agent, like, this is perfect for you. And I was like, even me reading this breakdown and looking how I look, I'm like, I wouldn't even cast me for this. But don't turn down the audition. I'm going to give my best performance for it, and whatever it is just a time for me to play around. And hopefully they're like, hey, I remember that guy was not bad, or maybe I can use him in something else. That's my mentality. One of my first acting jobs of the reenactment shows that they do is called US Weekly's Famous Feuds. And there's a famous actor named Eddie Cibrian. I can't remember what he was on, maybe like 90210 kind of stuff. And he was dating Leanne Rimes, and I guess there was 2 divorces. They worked with each other. They were each married and divorced their people to be with each other.
Right.
And I remember going in for the audition, and I was reading for Leanne Rimes' husband. And he comes in, he's like, reading for Eddie Cibrian? And I was like, no, I'm reading for the husband. He's like, you look like Eddie Cibrian. I was like, oh. He's like, take this script, read the Eddie Cibrian stuff. I was like, okay, and I booked it.
That's hilarious.
And of my whole career, this US Weekly's Famous Feuds is the only thing that I've done where I haven't seen it.
Really?
So US Weekly's Famous Feuds, if you're out there, anybody's watching this, send it to me.
These reenactment shows, they always are on like some weird ass channels, like the Travel Channel that you only see in like hotels at an airport.
They're not big enough to be on illegal streaming sites.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll have to hunt it down. First person to hunt down that episode. Could you imagine?
That'd be pretty cool.
Put it in the comments if you find it.
That'd be pretty cool.
So when did you go union? When did that happen for you?
That would be the Beverly and Mitchell Christmas movie, which is, I was in a unique situation where you need, I don't know what the system is, because I kind of just, here's the system, here's me, and I just went over it. It was, I went from non-union having 0 ACTRA credits, and then you have to get permits to work for ACTRA, and you can only do a certain amount of permits until you have to go to join the union, but because I was working for over 3 weeks, each week I was going to have a new permit. So I just jumped straight from non-union to full union and got into that Christmas movie.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, the union has its up and downs, but it was cool. It's kind of like getting into the union, and if you have some success, it kind of feels more validated, like you're getting your steady paychecks and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, there's just, I really, if the union is listening to this, I think they really need to get into the 21st century. Like, it's not how it was. Like, we need get some younger people onto the board and figure out ways that we can help, I'm more the proponent, like, just keep us working, figure out a way to get more people working. If somebody has a project, figure out what we can do to...
Yeah, hot take. Let people do non-union and union work. Like, not
Sheesh.
one. I'm so sorry, but not one or the other. Like, it should be an upgrade where, okay, so level 1 is all the non-union stuff that you can do as an actor, right? Level 2 should get you level 1 and level 2, not one or the other. You know what I mean?
But the only downside of that is because they're doing it from the safety standpoint, right? Like, they're saying, okay,
I would just be like, it would obviously be like, hey, yeah, you can do the non-union work, but just know that you're on your own.
Mine was, well, actually, I didn't come up with this because SAG does this, but you can do it. You can sign out up to, I think, 3 times to do non-union projects.
Okay.
And I think that's great. I go, okay, I'll take the inherent risk. Like, if you think I'm gonna get injured or something on set, or they don't have an intimacy coordinator, I go, I understand that. I will take on the risk. If something happens, I can't complain about it. Let me have a say in it, right?
Yeah.
Because when I was working on union, every time I had a blast. I never had a problem with anybody. Mostly because I'm not going through Mandy.com. I'm going through my agent. I'm going through, a lot of the casting houses in Toronto that are, well respected. We're not doing, I'm not going to a Facebook ad and being like, oh no, I got, attacked on a Facebook ad, right? So I think that's, there's a lot of fear and stuff and of trying to control power, but we live in an age where I can pick up my phone and I can shoot really well quality stuff. It's not back in the day where to have a really good camera and the quality was only for people who could afford it. So they definitely need to bridge the gap. Even when they were thinking about like, oh yeah, like TikTok content, like you're a union actor. What are you talking about? Also, please don't kick me out of the union. I want
keep him with the union.
I want to upgrade it. I want you guys to be better, and so that we can all prosper.
Because, it is one of those things where it's like, if you don't move with the times, you get left behind. And why would you want to get left behind, as a union, but also, like, if your whole thing is to get people working and make sure they're working, you got to make changes.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate for having my music background that has led me to be able to have lead roles that have led me the ability to be full-time. This whole year that I'm in right now, I haven't had any lead roles, and I've just been doing 1-2 day roles, 3-day roles to keep myself afloat, which is so hard because you have to book a bajillion of roles, and everyone knows how hard that is the problem. We don't have a star system where if you're always giving the lead roles, flying in Americans, giving them the 2 best roles in the film, then how was I ever going to make a fan base who's going to be like, oh, server number 3, he was so good, I want to follow him online. Wow, his performance was captivating. Yeah. And I always say, a lot of actors, you go to acting school and they teach you about, understand the character arc and all that stuff. And I'm like, if you're not the lead, you have no arc. You were a guy coming in for 2 seconds. Yeah. You were not developing anything. There's no
motivation?
Range. You're zero motivation. Your motivation is get me my coffee. So yeah, little things like that. And even until I didn't really truly understand that until I started working and getting lead roles. And when you're shooting the movie out of sequence, right? You really have to know as an actor, like, okay, so this is the middle. Where's my character mentally at this place? Like, am I in a more like a negative zone with the person that's my corner, or I got to look back on the scenes and be like, oh, I actually like her in here. My demeanor is totally different from getting there. That's like another thing that you don't really learn until you start getting those roles. So
Right.
working in the non-union realm will give some of these promising actors the opportunity to have that experience and then transpose it to when they get to the union films.
Yeah, for sure.
Exhausted.
Exhausted. Do you work with acting coaches or take classes at all?
I did for such a long, when I first got in, I was doing it, I probably took over, I'm a graduate from Second City Improv.
Nice.
I did all their programs. And then I've studied with Louis Beaumander. One of my favorite ones to work with, he ended up passing away, was Ron Leach.
Yeah, I loved Ron.
Yeah, he was awesome. And I really liked his classes because he would teach from a casting director's lens.
Yeah.
Which was very different from Louis Beaumander, who was more on the acting side. And I would bring Louis Beaumander's acting into Ron, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I just learned that over here. And he's like, "No, you got to show. I got to see it." And I was like,
I used his eyeline trick constantly.
Yeah. So it was. I got to a point. I remember one of my favorite casting directors is Larissa Mayer. Shout out to the Queen. She's been so helpful in my career. I remember I just finished Louis Beaumander, started with Ron, and I was really down on myself because anytime I did an audition for them, I'm coming into the room thinking I'm giving a really good performance.
Right.
And every time it was, "Oh, you did this wrong. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this?" So I was like, "Oh man, like, do I even know? Like, if I'm on my own, what's good acting? I don't know." So I went in for this audition, and I remember I was sitting in a chair, and they're over here. I did the audition, and I put my head down, and I had the thought in my head, I was like, "Oh, that was shit." And I look over to them, and they're like, "That was amazing. That was the best audition we had all day." And I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Honestly, I literally thought it was shit." And they're like, "No, that was really good. Why do you think it's bad?" And I'm like, "I've been going to, teachers and stuff, and I feel like I don't know what decisions to make." And they were like, "Well, you made the good ones there." So after I had all those experiences, like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to feel off my instincts. Obviously, there are things like where my eye lines, how to have, once you figure those parts out and that side of the craft, the technical side,
Yeah.
that is important, which was Ron was really good with that. He was like, if you turn your shoulders and the lighting's here, it gives you depth. That was like, okay, that I can transpose.
Yeah.
But in the terms of like choices or like you're too big or too small, sometimes too big is somebody likes too big.
Yes,
and sometimes somebody likes really small. Like,
Yeah.
it's so subjective. And
Exactly.
sometimes I see somebody, I'm like, that actor was terrible. And I look over and they're like, brilliant performance. I'm like, I don't know what I'm
Are we seeing the
doing.
same
Yeah,
thing? I
don't know what
always have that. I'm like,
looking
am
at.
I totally friggin' wrong?
Yeah, and I
about my
think,
taste?
I really do love, for me, acting is when I'm with somebody, I just act like I'm there right now. Just act like when they say something to me, literally feel it. And I remember there was a movie I was working on called Family Seductions, and it was a girl giving me back her necklace. And she's like, "I can't take this anymore." And I remember started like, she was crying and I was crying, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't need like crying," but we were just hearing what she was saying, and I was listening to what she was saying, and we started crying, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's really powerful." And they're like, "Yeah, we don't want you guys to cry." And I'm like, "Huh, that's funny because I wasn't trying, it was just what I felt, feeling like you're in the moment. And then I think, it's something that I say with like a lot of my co-stars is your brain when you're having relationships with these people on TV, your brain doesn't really know the difference between it not being your wife and you feel like, wow, like I have these really nice connections with people, and some of my co-stars I've had they're really dear friends, and I'm like, it's crazy because we've acted like we were couples and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah. That's that's so nice. I was thinking about Ron Leach again too. I forgot about the angle one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that you're. It's more once you figure out your craft and figure out all the techniques that work for you, then just trusting yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that's so key. I think that's so important.
We were talking earlier. I had an audition with no lines. I was with my roommate, and I had to climb over seats of a burning plane. And I had a mental breakdown. I just kind of like, I don't know what to do. What do they want? It was very Notebook scene. What do you want?
Tell me what you want.
And I'm like, I don't even know what acting is anymore. I give up. And then they're like, we're calling you back. And I'm like, again, it's just always, I think it's also like the detachment. Like when you just do not care, just go in there, give two shits. Like, did you like that? All right. I don't care if you did or didn't.
Yeah.
There's something to it. There is something of just, and you know what? It is, that's what they say. The overeager actor is you're trying so hard to make them like you, and you're over analyzing everything. But when you just honestly just don't care and you just give that performance in a weird way, it works a lot of the time.
I almost think it's related to, I was listening to this entrepreneur podcast, and it was talking about when you're pitching to companies, let's say you want a brand deal with them or something like that. The pitches that they like more, I'm going to do this with or without you kind of attitude. It's like, this thing is happening. You can jump on my wagon and be a part of it, whether you want to or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's going to happen with or without you. And it's like, it is a confidence that comes from that too. Because you're right. It's like, please, this project won't happen if it's not with you, or like, I will die, my life will end if you don't agree to work with me. And it's like, I don't want to work with that either.
It's just relationships in life. Like, do you want the person like who's like, don't leave me, I need you? And it's like, well, why would I want you if you need me, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Anyhow, take me back. I still love you.
Shout out to whoever that was for.
Exactly.
I love it. Is there anything, do you want to talk about your musician side of life? You're the little musician that lives inside of you.
I make music. Well, so I was on Canadian Idol when I was 18.
Yes.
I've been making music with these two brothers, the Oren brothers, James and Adam, for over, when I was 15, getting close to 20 years. I've been making music with these guys for 20 years. We started off as like a lot of indie rock. I was a big Oasis, Arctic Monkeys. My favorite band's the 1975. Shout out to them. Loved like indie rock, and we made that music for a long time. And then as I got older, we kind of fizzled out from it. It's really hard when you have the band set up, band practice, carrying your equipment around everywhere. It's a lot of work. But we always still made music, and then we started kind of getting into like electronic dance music. And we've been making, I'm in a group called Soundhaven, one word, and we've been making dance music for the last 5 years, and we have over 30 songs on Spotify.
Amazing.
I think we're over like 2 million streams now. But it's crazy. It's such a cheat code of, hey, I'm gonna pre-download, like make all the songs, plug them into this machine with some cool lasers, and people lose their mind, right? Like you never have to worry about your voice being out, a string breaking, a drum not sounding right. Like it truly is crazy, which is why everyone's a DJ now. But I'm very fortunate because it gives me that rush of performing for people and having the crowd and making people enjoy life. It's the entertainer side of everything.
Amazing. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. So check that out on Spotify, and I'm assuming wherever you get music.
Anywhere music is. You could even come to my house. I'll play for you, whatever you want.
Excellent. I love that. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about? Or anything you wanted to dive deeper into?
No. I feel like you're becoming my therapist. But no,
not qualified.
Creative full-time is awesome. So if you are a creative full-time,
come check us out.
Get in there.
Come be on the podcast. We love when people reach out.
Cheers.
We love when people reach out to be a guest on the podcast. Looking at you, famous people. Anybody who's an actor. Great. I'll wrap up with just like 2 questions.
Sure, let's go.
And then we'll be done. Is there a quote or a mantra that you live by?
I mean, I'm just such a spiritual guy who's always on the apps of like, give me something. I think they like, I don't know, they're always motivating me. I'm trying to think of ones that I really like. Wow. Anything by, I love a philosopher named Alan Watts. He's got a lot of cool stuff. And he says, man suffers because we take seriously what the gods made for fun. So I kind of just perceive like we're floating on a rock in the middle of nothingness. Who cares? Try. Take chances. Like, what is the worst? My rock bottom is moving home with my parents, and it's not the worst thing, right?
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 Yes.
Like, if everything, that literally would have to take everything crumbling around me, and I'm not on the street, I'm living with my parents. And my God, that is a nightmare. No. But
and it's its own personal hell.
Listen to Alan Watts. He definitely is very motivational.
Amazing. And if you could give your younger self any advice, what would you tell your younger self?
Younger self, I would say believe in yourself. Like, I want to do a TED Talk eventually about the weight of words and how they affect you and how we get them from other people, because sadly enough, like, no matter how good you think you are in your head, if you're not having external people give that back to you, it's going to crumble. So I would say the weight of words is really unique, because for me, a story I always tell, and it's Jules Casting was the first audition I ever had. It was to be a Much Music VJ. And I had to do a mock 5-minute episode and present it with like facts. So there was one like, do the 5 reasons to go see O-Town. And I was like, 5 reasons to see O-Town. Number 1, you thought they were the Backstreet Boys. So anyhow, I did it, but in that audition, I think I was maybe like 20 at the time, and my leg was shaking nonstop, and I'm like, I don't know why I can't stop this. And she's like, wow, that was really good. How long have you been doing this? And I was like, this is my first audition. She's like, seriously? And I was like, yeah. I was so green, or what do you say? It's like you're brand new. Green?
Yeah, green.
I was so green that after I was done, I sent her an email like, thanks for letting me audition for you. Let me know what you thought of my audition. Like, how stupid that is. And now that I remember, I went and I saw that email. I was like, oh my God. And she, in person, she told me, she was like, hey, like, I know you're really new, but I see so much potential in you. 4 years later, I booked a job through Jules Casting, and I saw her at a mixer later, and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, anytime I thought about like quitting, I remember my first audition with you, and you said you saw like a lot of potential in me, and I was like, okay, if a casting director saw that in me, maybe I can do this, and it would motivate me. And she was like, I had no idea I told you that, right? So it's something funny. Like you can say things like, if you tell somebody like, oh, you're shit, and you don't think about it, that person that you're shit, they'll think in their head when they're trying in their head to do that thing, they're like, oh, I'm shit, that person thought I was shit, right? So I think it's surrounding yourself with the right people who are going to encourage you to take action on the crazy thoughts in your head, I think is really important. Because if you always just go I'm too nervous, or I'm shit, or this isn't going to work out, you don't do anything and nothing comes from that. So take chances and surround yourself with non-shit talkers. So yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, surrounding yourself with good people is important. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this interview. Let me know what you learned or your favorite takeaway in the comments below. Make sure to like, share with a friend that is also a creator, and I'll see you in the next interview.